Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show. This is episode 53. In this show, we're going to be discussing hosting. If you're looking to build your membership website in 23 and coming up soon, 2024, and I don't think there's a more better time to build a membership community website. I feel you should be looking at WordPress, but one of the key areas that will determine if you have a great experience with WordPress or not a very good one is hosting. And in my opinion, there's a lot of misinformation around hosting. Hopefully, in this podcast, I am going to give you my opinion. I've also got my great co-host, Kurt, with me. He will give his honest opinions. It should be a great show. So, Kirk, do you want to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Certainly, Jonathan. Thank you. I run a company called Mañana No Mas. We focus largely on membership and learning type websites. And then I also work directly with you, WP-Tonic, and Lifter LMS. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thanks, Kurt. So before we go into the meat and potatoes of this great show, I've got a couple of messages from our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
We're coming back, folks. I just want to point out that we got some great special offers from the major sponsors, plus a curated list of the best WordPress plugins and services that will help you build a great membership or community website on WordPress. It will stop you having to trawl the internet to try all these solutions or services have all been tried out by myself or by my team, and we think they're some of the best. To find all these goodies, all you have to do is go over to wp-tonic.com/deals, wp-tonic.com/deals, and you find all the goodies there. What more could you ask for? Probably a lot more, but that's all you're going to get from that particular page. Sorry, I'm not Santa Claus. So let's have a quick overall discussion. So what's your feelings about hosting specifically applied to membership learning management systems and community websites, i.e. Buddy Boss? What are some of the things you have observed since you've been in this particular area, Kurt?
Yeah, Jonathan, hosting is one of those things. We're going to talk about it, and this will probably be the show that gets all the feedback, right? Everyone's going to have an opinion.
It's all going to be positive as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, all positive. And it's so weird because in my personal journey in WordPress over the last 19 years, hosting was one of the last concerns that I brought to the table for myself. And then as I learned more and more about the quality of hosting and what I was actually paying for, that's when it kind of hit me like a wave, like, oh crud, I did it backwards. So hosting's really important because it's the cornerstone of what your product is on. And I think a lot of it falls into use case. And I see some of the introduction notes that you have really point to that. Like, do you have, a low traffic, is this a proof of concept site that doesn't have any traffic? Is this a membership site? Is it an e-commerce site? Is it, and this is the Membership Machine Show. So we're talking about things that are really geared towards memberships and traffic. So I think when you start talking about hosting, it gets to be more and more important.
Yeah, I want to start off. There is no one perfect solution because it really depends on what type of individual you are, how technical you are, how untechnical you just don't want to be technical. There's different solutions that people love, but they find it impossible to put themselves into another person's shoes that isn't them. And a lot of people really cannot do that, and they become blinkered. I think I haven't got many strengths, folks, but one of my strengths is I've always been able to put myself in other people's shoes, and try and work out how they're viewing things. I think it's been one of my strengths over the years. I say that because other people have said that to me. It's not just out of my head. I also think, folks, that there's a lot of misinformation from hosting providers and from the internet and YouTube in general. You can get hosting for a couple dollars a month. And you're going to get certain hosting providers that will say you can run a membership website or learning management or even Buddy Boss on $2 a month or even less. They even state it, some of them even state it on their websites. Based on my over 15 years experience, that's garbage. That is so misleading. You on that type of hosting with a modern stack of plugins that you're going to need to run a modern membership website, taking out of account the actual needs when you get active students on the site, that type of hosting, if you got less than half a dozen students that were active, it would probably melt. The experience would be awful. That's my initial. What's your reaction to what I've just said, Kurt?
Well, I think you nailed a big part of that, and that is with traffic. And so when I work with a lot of clients, some of them just don't have budget, Jonathan. They just don't have budget. So should they be in business or not? That's another conversation. But for the proof of concept, to see if something works, or to try the design, or to run it by the board, that's fine, right? If you're looking for investment to get something started, that's fine. But if you want to go and launch and put paying users into a site, you need to have serious hosting.
Yeah, because if you've got any level of student that will make the membership website viable as a business, folks, the specific needs of a learning management or a community website based on Buddy Boss are totally different to what the requirements of a brochure site. Fundamentally, the requirements of any learning management membership or community website that has any students are very similar to, in my opinion, to a medium level e-commerce solution that's using WooCommerce. They're very similar. They don't need the high end, but they will not function on the low end. So that, based on my experience, if you're looking at hosting providers and they don't have specific recommendations around learning management systems or community websites, you should be looking at their e-commerce solution offerings. And if you choose one of those, you stand some chance of not having a horrendous experience. What's your response to that?
Well, I think defining the horrendous experience becomes part of the conversation. And that's, people sign up, they can't access their account. People, go to join, they get error screens back, they get the white screen of death, they get, so when we talk about a poor experience, that's what we're describing. We're describing like it fundamentally does not function. And I've run into this on some bargain hosts where, hey, it works. We build the thing, we put the thing together, and as soon as we start letting clients in, I start getting the support emails with, my credit card payments aren't going through. My clients can't access their account. They can't get into the course that, it says that they're a member, but they can't access the course. And, there's aggressive caching and stuff like that. That's working. We're at work here. And these dynamic sites need that server power to work correctly.
Yeah. Well, before we go into the list of actual hosting providers, and I'll give my honest opinion, and Kurt can be more careful in his comments, is that caching one of the specific problems around a learning management membership or a community buddy boss website is the utilize of caching. Caching is not evil, folks. It's great if it's applied in the correct way. It is necessary in some ways. The idea that you're going to go to any provider and there won't be some element of caching involved is delusionary. But there's caching setups and there's caching setups. And even based on our experience, really anybody logged into the website, you need the caching to be switched off. That's the simplest way to approach this, is that if somebody's logged in, the areas they're logged into, the caching is switched off. There's a lot, even on the Premier side, where you constantly have to ask them to switch off caching. They ask you to give them specific URLs, web page addresses. It works for 3 months, and then caching, they have an update to the servers, blah, 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 and the caching appears again and the complaints start again, and you just go round and round and round like a demented hamster on a hamster wheel. What's your response to that, Kurt?
I've had some of the same experience, Jonathan, but it's like someone that tries to custom modify their WordPress site and doesn't do it correctly. When the next update comes, they wonder where their customization went. It's that same kind of thing. There's ways to prevent the overwriting, and then there's ways that it will get overwritten with updates. And so you just have to, if you're going to save the money and be budget minded, you have to know on the back end of that decision is, maintenance, oversight, and moderation.
Yeah. The other tricky area is support, and support really varies. And also you got to understand in it, the type of support you will get and the language that the support teams will utilize will be different. And if you're a certain case user, the kind of language and the support you will get will not be suitable for you. The other thing is, even from the best hosting provider, there is only a certain level of support you can expect from them just providing hosting. And that varies depending if you're at the beginning of your journey with a particular hosting provider. They will probably be more charitable in the support that they will offer to you, even if it's slightly outside the boundaries of the support that they should be offering you, because there's a line between support that you will get from a hosting provider and paid development support that you get from a company or from a developer, individual developer. And you've got to be aware of that. No hosting provider of any sort is going to start sorting out themes, plugin conflicts, do changes to your website. That is all kind of outside the boundaries of what you should expect from support from a hosting provider. It is a tricky subject, though, isn't it, Kurt?
It can be, and just to kind of battle that a little bit is, you're right, it does depend on the level of support, but I've seen a lot of times where, a good host will be like, oh, well, there's a plugin conflict, or this looks like it needs an update, or, your images were, this version and it should be this version. And so you'll get some guidance and some help along the way from really good providers. But I've noticed that there's been some that have responded in very ambiguous ways that leave the client going, I don't know what to do next. Do I just,
especially on the cheaper side, because support is expensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
It costs at WP-Tonic, I think, on the managed hosting side, we provide some of the best value. We update all the plugins, and if there's a conflict, we will either roll it back or try and sort it out for you. None of even the Premier hosting providers provide that. It really is, you get a 5-star service. So I think I've waffled on enough, but I think I've kept on subject for me, haven't I, Kurt? I think
Yeah, you have. You have.
yeah, I could do a lot worse than that. So let's go into this where I'm going to get the poison email. So let's start with the big daddy, GoDaddy. Lovely people at WordCamps. Some
Lovely
of the
people.
nicest people I've met. Would I use GoDaddy hosting for anything? No, I hate them. I've had constant struggles, bad experiences. I think they're one of the worst hosting providers that you could go with. I wouldn't touch them with a barge pole if it came to a membership learning management system or a Buddy Boss. If you host a Buddy Boss website with them, good luck to you. It's going to be extremely frustrating. If somebody wants to do that, in the days where I was a developer and I didn't need their money, I wouldn't work with them because it just wasn't worth the pain. If you won't listen to what I've said to you, and maybe Kurt's got a different view, if you decide that you are going to go with them, you need to look at their WooCommerce solutions that start at $19.99. Essentials, Flex is $80 or Expand $129. You're probably, if you're starting off, you've got no customers, look at the $19.99. But as soon as you get a few students, you're going to have to go up to the 79, in my opinion. That $19.99 looks a bit sus to me, but it's probably all right to build it out on, and then to upgrade is because you're on the same platform. It's not probably going to be too horrendous, but be prepared. The kind of support, it can vary. You only get phone support, and it can vary from really good to really awful depending on the support agent you get. And your call can go straight through, or you can be waiting an hour plus. Be prepared. So that's my. Well, they're never going to sponsor the show, are they? So Kurt, what's your views?
Jonathan, Mañana No Mas pretty much has a GoDaddy surcharge. When I'm working with a customer and they come to us with a GoDaddy account, I know it's going to be an extra at least 1 to 2 hours of added effort to do work for them. And it's, I can't even really put my finger on it with you, Jonathan, because as you pointed out, the people in their team are fantastic.
Yeah, the lovely people you meet at WordCamps.
Yeah, the people you meet and the things that you do, and obviously they've got funding, and I know that in Arizona they pay it forward, with other businesses. So all those models sound great, but when it comes to using the product and trying to forge forward on a project, it, to your point, can be a nightmare. Just moving a URL around, or trying to repoint the DNS to something. It's 3 different sign-ons and 2-factor authorizations, and then they always wait the 5 days to move something. Nothing ever moves.
Oh, that's their policy.
On a timely basis.
Do not buy your domain names through them. I know it's tempting, and they offer deep discount for the first year. They will also nickel and dime you forever. And do not, if you're looking, there are other domain name providers that are going to be a little bit like $1 or $2 cheaper per year than the one I'm going to recommend. The one I'm going to recommend, it's not going to be the cheapest, but it's not going to be, it's going to be $1 or $2 a year. Buy your domains through Cloudflare. Don't go to Namecheap or Hover. Just buy them through. They're up front with their charging. They're straight as they come as a company. It fits in with the other free service they provide. You're going to be happy. These other people, you can never log in as a developer. If you want to give a developer blah blah blah, it's always frigging hassle. What do you reckon about that?
It's true. It's true. Yeah, and out of all of the ones that I think we're going to talk about today, GoDaddy is the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Well, on to WP Engine, the love child of the WordPress development community. Really fantastic people. Jason is a personal friend of mine. I think we have become friends, and he wouldn't be upset with me saying that. Love him. He's a great human being, hugely successful, deserves it, in my opinion. Really professional. I wouldn't recommend them for a learning management system or for a buddy boss. They, for understand their stack, they use a caching called Garnish. They will remove it, but it's a constant battle. They are just not set up for the type of websites that we discuss in this podcast and what WP-Tonic supports. They're just not set up for that. That they are a quality hosting provider, and if somebody was hosting with them, I would work with them. But you're going to have frustrations. You just are. But they are respectable. If you're in WooCommerce, you do also need to look at the WooCommerce. Their pricing I wouldn't say it's misleading, because that would be totally unfair. It's just that they've got a lot of options on the cheaper end of the offerings. The initial sign up price, you've got to add a lot of options now. You're better off looking at the WooCommerce, and that starts at $24 for startup, professional $50, growth $94, scale $234. That if you're going to go WP Engine, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, unlike GoDaddy, where I would say you would have to be insane to go with them. I'm not saying that about WP Engine. I'm just saying that it's going to be a bit of a struggle. So what's your response there, Kurt?
Well, similar to you, I really think Jason's a stand-up guy. And I think with strong leadership, comes strong management, strong policies, strong everything. So when you deal with WP Engine and you have to call support, or you go through any of the processes a developer might go through working with a client, you get the impression that you're working with a company that has their act together to a certain extent. But like, for instance, when I am, helping somebody with a Lifter LMS website, first thing I go to if they're having a problem is, where are you hosted? We got to reduce the caching. And then typically the first phone call is, no, we're not caching. And then you have to demonstrate to them that there is caching. And then, they reduce the caching, right? So
for a time, but it always comes back, doesn't it?
Yeah, tends to be an effort, right? You kind of have to go through the inspect screen and then demonstrate, no, this is being cached. I can see right now that it's being cached. And then they go, oh yes, we will remove that.
Yeah, and they do, but it always comes back. It always comes back, because they're hosting thousands, hundreds of thousands of websites. They've become a major force in WordPress hosting. They push, because before WP-Tonic entered, and also Kinsta, I would say WP Engine and Kinsta kind of revolutionized the area. It was truly dreadful, the hosting options that you had. But they're hosting hundreds of thousands of websites, and they utilize caching, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they're not the membership learning management buddy boss is just a tiny little sub area of the hundreds of thousands of websites they're dealing with. But they're totally legit. On to the next one. Was in the WordPress professional community, there's always hosting providers that, especially in the implementer stroke lower level developer, which is about 80% of the WordPress community. SiteGround was a love affair because they offered really great multi-site packages. They were the king of nickel and diming. They on their website has now become almost their selling process has become almost as bad as GoDaddy. They attempt to nickel and dime. They offer ridiculously low initial hosting plans. Do not go like GoDaddy. Do not go with their initial cheap hosting. It's going to be awful. Their technology stack is like GoDaddy, a mixture of modern with older hosting stack. You never know if you're going to be on the more modern side or the cheaper, outdated side. It's a hot mess. Lovely people. They're based in Bulgaria. Many years ago, I interviewed the CEO of the company. They're nice people. They're just, unfortunately, their business model. If you're going to go with them, you're going to have to look at their cloud hosting option. I wouldn't even look at their WooCommerce because I thought that was ridiculously priced as well. You're going to have to look at their cloud hosting option. And that starts at $100, $200 for start, $100 business, $200 business plus. This is my opinion, Kurt. I looked at the WooCommerce. You could disagree, but the feedback I got, their WooCommerce isn't as good as GoDaddy, in my opinion. So, what do you reckon, Kurt?
I just don't know what happened to them. Like, I'm just not plugged in enough to know where it all went wrong.
Well, their business model didn't make sense, and they were subsidizing to get growth, and the money ran out, and now they're in a mad scramble. They haven't got the investment to update their server technology. They've got a load of customers. They had to get out of the Indian subcontinent market because they just weren't making any money, and they were having to offer hosting at such ridiculous low levels. The whole business model, I have no inside information, I'm just getting this from whispers, is that their whole business model was imploding a bit.
I remember they used to be super popular, in talks, around the table, but they just faded. It was like no one was using them, and I haven't had a customer interaction on SiteGround in a long time.
Yeah, their support used to be really good. That's why other people were comparing it with GoDaddy, and they liked the prices, and the support was better. They used to give live chat, email, and phone. I don't think they offered phone. They've made it they make it as hard as possible to communicate with them because support is expensive. So they're trying to cut back the costs and try and make a lot of their hosting, which wasn't very profitable. So this is all my opinion. These are my opinions, folks. Yeah. Don't sue me.
Just literally going through my mind. It's literally been years since I've worked with a client coming off of or going on to SiteGround. It's been literally years.
Yeah, they're still offering really great. The WordPress implementer crowd have gone off them because their deals to them weren't as good, and they were big on referral and doing these multi-site deals. The love affair in the WordPress implementer community is dried out to an enormous extent. And they also nickel and dime, and they don't really want to offer a lot of support at the lower level. That's why I've chosen, it is controversial that I say you need to look not even at the e-commerce, but that's my honest opinion. And I might be wrong, but I'm just giving my opinion, Kurt. All right. On to the next one. Oh, God. Jesus Christ. Bluehost, part of a enormous hosting conglomerate that owns a number. I think it owns 2 to 3 of the ones that we're going to be talking about. Was one of the early providers, sponsors WordPress a lot, is on the list of if you go to WordPress.com, it's on their list of recommended. Do not touch their lower level hosting providers. I think they're better than GoDaddy, and I think they're better than SiteGround, in my opinion. Do not look at you're going to have to look at their VPS option, in my opinion, if you're going to have any joy with a membership learning management, apart from developing it out. I'm talking about when you get your first students. You look at the VPS solution that Bluehost has. That starts at $29.99 for standard, enhanced $39.99, ultimate $69.99. Pretty cool. I think you stand some chance of having a reasonable experience if you go with those. It ain't going to be fantastic. I don't think your support's going to be anything like WP Engine, but I'll say the problem with WP Engine is they've got this love affair with Garnish, and they turn it off. But it always, in my experience with WP Engine, it's like the ghost of Christmas past. It always comes back. But if you're looking at SiteGround or GoDaddy with Bluehost, I'll go with Bluehost. What do you reckon, Kurt?
I'm going to surprise you, Jonathan. You might not know this about me. I was a Bluehost client for about 15 years.
That's how you lost all your hair.
That's how I lost all my hair. There are so many conveniences with Bluehost that they do become attractive. So think about the user interface when you're trying to work in GoDaddy, or the user interface when you're trying to work in Cloudways, or Bluehost gives you that nice cPanel experience. And what I liked about Bluehost, quite honestly, was I didn't feel like I was harnessed financially by what I perceived successes were. So I could have as many URLs in there as I wanted. I could build sample sites and proof of concepts without going broke, because I wasn't paying per website to put something in there. And the support really was good. I had chat support. I had phone support. I only called them when I really screwed something up, and they always came through for me.
Yeah, but you're a high-end implementer. That's why you liked it. Why other high-end implementers didn't have your opinion wasn't the service level. It was that their multi-site offerings weren't as attractive as some of the other players.
Well, that was the end of my story. You jumped the shark on me there, bub. That's when I left. They said that would do multi-site, and they were like, "Oh, it does multi-site. It does multi-site." I
meant multi-site in multiple. If you're trying to host client sites, multiple sites plus multi-site plus multi-site.
Yeah, well, I did a multi-site project, and it just locked it up. And then came the surprise. The last year, I just got this crazy bill from them, and they said, "Oh no, that's our new billing policy. You're not grandfathered in anymore. You have to pay this new rate." And I was like, "I'm out." And that was the end of it. But until then, unlimited emails, unlimited URLs, the cPanel access. I mean, there was a lot of convenience, the one button installs for WordPress and things like that. It was convenient and it was easy, but it didn't perform well. And that's where you
got to go with the that's why I selected the VPS option rather than
I had the VPS enhanced account when I stopped with them. But even though I thought my sites were performing well, I thought they looked fine. But then when I switched hosts and saw that everything was loading, 2 and 3 times faster, I was like, oh boy, I really settled for a long time.
Yeah, they're okay, folks.
Yeah.
Their technology stack is a bit outdated. In my opinion. I'm going to say my opinion a lot in this show. Yeah, it's just that they're okay. They're a budget solution, in my opinion. On to the next one.
Yeah, I just want to kind of clarify, like a budget solution, absolutely. But out of the budget solutions we're talking about, I think one of the better options.
Yes, I would agree with you. Thanks for that.
There's definitely more premium experiences to be had. But if you've only got a limited budget, that's one that you could look at.
Certainly, I agree. Yeah. On to the next one, Kinsta. I know the Kinsta crew, Brian Jackson, Tom, nice people, straight people. Built a bootstrapped a fabulous business. They've got hundreds of fans. They're not anywhere near as big as WP Engine, but they're still hosting a ton of websites. Really got popular with the WordPress developer crowd, the implementer crowd. Offered real true cloud hosting. Good support. You don't have the problems with Garnish that you do with WM. This is where, based on the feedback of my practical experience, you don't. They're using caching, but they just don't seem. They seem to be able to switch it off, and not for it to come back time after time after time. The thing is, they become a bit expensive because I've noticed if you go to their website, they used to be all about WordPress. They're backed off now. It's still there, but their focus now is on higher end application, higher end type websites, and they've buried the WordPress a little bit off the homepage. Because it just wasn't, it's just the support costs. But I don't think it's still that, you can start at 35, starter, pro, 70, business 1, 115, business 2, 225. I think they could have had more imaginative naming convention than business 1, business 2, but I'm going off subject now. Never go off subject, would I, listeners and viewers? Yeah, they're a quality company. I think they're backing a little bit. Just saying, this is just my opinion by going to the website. They're, and I think it's the support costs. It's just the support costs destroy you as a hosting provider because the tickets just can't go in and in and in. Because that's one of the reasons why we update and we like to know what plugins people got installed, because it costs us up money, but it keeps a better sweet experience for the clientele, and it stops to some extent all these bloody support tickets. Because you find people got like 5 caching plugins on their website, or 5 this, or 6 of this, 7 of that, all on their website, and they're wondering why it's not working very well. So what's your opinion? I'll be interested. What's your opinion of Kinsta? What's been your thoughts? I'm sure they've been on your radar to some extent.
Yeah. Actually, Kinsta wasn't on my radar until I really started listening to this show. The WP-Tonic show was probably, 3.5 years ago. I think Kinsta was one of your sponsors for a while.
Yeah, they sponsored me. They were very generous, and they sponsored me for a couple of years.
Yeah, so that kind of got me looking at them, and that was back then. And then I was always intrigued by the bootstrapping idea, and the growth and their focus on WordPress. But I've seen a lot of activity recently on the internet, and I don't know if it's just the WordPress, rumor mill, or if this stuff is in fact true, but that they're kind of stepping away from WordPress a bit, and that they've been going through some layoffs, and it's all low key stuff. But I always, it always gets my radar up, so what's this going to look like in 3 months, 6 months, or a year, if I put a big project on there for a client? And that's the way I start thinking about things.
Well, I've got no inside information. I know that the whole platform is based on Google Cloud. Google Cloud is it's a true cloud hosting provider like WP-Tonic. Our hosting is on Amazon Web Services, not all of it. Then we have access to Vulture as well, if high frequency service, if it's necessary. But they are on Google Cloud. Google Cloud has become expensive.
Yeah.
They're using Google. They're purchasing large amounts of Google Cloud, and then they're providing the support on top. It's become very expensive, Google Cloud.
Yeah.
And I think their pricing structure on the WordPress side, their margins have been under pressure, Kirk. in my opinion. Does that make sense, Kurt?
It does. It does. It's, I'm trying to have this conversation thinking about a business owner with their own membership site, like the theme of the show, right? The membership machine show. But then I can't help when we have these hosting talks, think about it from an agency perspective of,
yeah, this is the problem. But I knew that
30 or 40 websites I got to move around, and then that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it's they're quality, but they're a quality team with a quality product.
Yeah,
I think I think I'm not going to say any more than that. I'm looking at the WooCommerce options here. They've got because I think if you're really going to host with Kinsta, that's what you're going to have to look at. Their WordPress WooCommerce option, and it's more on the Premier side at $35. But if you really can't afford $35 a month for your website stuff, I think you've got some other problems. But that's just my opinion. I'm sorry, I don't think you agree with me, and I just think if you can't afford $35, you got a problem. I'm not sure.
We're crossing into that conversation for the average user, right? So it's like, where does this, like I said, when I started in WordPress 19 years ago, hosting wasn't the first thing on my list. It was, what theme am I going to use, or what this, or what, and you get all excited about the build, and then reality hits, and the reality is, in today's marketplace, $35 a month that's entry level.
Well, really a lot of these hosting providers, they give the impression that $2 is.
Yeah, but
that's a brochure site, and even a brochure site, I don't think they've all, but that's just my opinion. It's just my honest opinion.
Yeah. Well, remember that end users shouldn't have to count to 10 to see your header pop up.
That's not a great experience, is it?
No. People need to click a link and see a result, and I think, $25 to $30 a month minimum is what people should expect. If they're in business. If it's a hobby website and you don't want to spend money on it, I get it. But if you want to run a business, you need it to perform.
We're going to go for our middle break. It's been an interesting conversation. I've kept on subject. We will be back with another recommendations, some truth to power comments from me. We will be back in a few moments, folks. Back, folks. Just want to point out, if you're looking for a quality hosting provider for your membership learning management system, BuddyBoss website, that offers a lot more than just superb hosting. Really, email, video advice, support, email, a list of the best WordPress plugins specifically chosen to support building a membership website, and a lot more. Amazing package. Why don't you look at hosting with WP-Tonic? We'd love you to become part of the tribe. So on we go. Oh God. HostGator, the big alligator.
Can we just skip it?
Part of this gigantic conglomerate that owns owns HostGator and also owns Bluehost. The big alligator. Do not look at their cheaper options. Your experience is going to be worse than GoDaddy. If you're going to go with the big alligator and not go with the big daddy, go with the VPS option. It's legacy hosting mixed with cloud. They're like a number of these hosting, like Kinsta is all cloud. It's Google. WP Engine, I think they're all cloud as well. HostGator and some of the other Bluehost, the others, SiteGround, they're a mixture of cloud and legacy. It's a hodgepodge. A lot of it's a hot mess, in my opinion. I do like the price. If you've got to go with the VPS if you're going to go with these people. But I do like the naming convention. Snappy 2000 at $23.95, Snappy 4000 at $34.95, and Snappy 8000 at 50. They're cheapo prices. If I was looking at the cheaper end, I'd go with Bluehost. I wouldn't go with the big alligator. I've had some horrendous, not as bad as GoDaddy, but getting close. What's your opinion?
Every experience I've had with HostGator has been in helping a client migrate away from HostGator.
That's my experience.
So that's my only real experience with them. I haven't had to use them as a customer as anything at any level like that. It's always been, oh my goodness, I got to get off of this. Can you help me get off of this and get me somewhere else? And that's the only real experience I have with them, Jonathan.
Yeah.
The marketing's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, the big alligator. Look, folks, if you're going to go with them, God bless you. It might all work out. I think if you're going to go on the cheaper end, look at Bluehost and their VPS. But it's all owned by the same people. But I think Bluehost, I think they let them run as independent companies, and I think to a certain degree they're independent teams. How much they share the same help centers and that, I have no idea. Right, on to the next one. This is was the darling of the WordPress. There's always some darling in the implementer developer community. WP Engines still is to some extent, but they're seen as expensive, and the WordPress kind of implementer lower end developer crowd, they want fantastic hosting, but they want it dirt cheap. The two things are incompatible. Like anything, it's a bit like wanting to pay the price of a Honda motorcycle, but you really want a Ducati. You want to pay, well, actually, Hondas have got rather expensive, probably something else.
Just for those in the know, Ducati released a new model just yesterday.
All right. There we go. But Cloudways. Now, Cloudways, it was started by a company in Pakistan, and it was all cloud, and you could choose different cloud providers like DigitalOcean, Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, Vultr, High Frequency. They had about 4 or 5. And basically they would offer support. The support was technical. You had to know the language to get best from the support. They would respond. They expected you to have a certain technical knowledge, and their replies were in technical language to some extent, which the kind of WordPress implementer crowd, they love it because it makes them feel that they're a true developer. And I'm not being disparaging here, but there's a lot of navel looking in this area. And they loved the prices, and they were doing, because they were after growth, so they were keen because they were looking to sell, and they did sell about 9 months ago. I think they sold to DigitalOcean. Now, since DigitalOcean, I was looking at X or Twitter. I'm still going to bloody call it Twitter. What a silly freaking change of name, X, for God's sake. I was looking at somebody who's on Cloudway this morning, and he can't even log in. He can't log into his agency account. And you see a lot of that now. They're getting more expensive. They're pushing only the DigitalOcean option. You can get the other options, but they've bumped the prices up a lot. The only competitive choice is the DigitalOcean. Surprise, surprise. And droplets, blah, 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 all the rest of it. if you're is not, in my opinion, if you're average Joe that wants to build a membership website, this is not suitable for you. If you're a WordPress implementer, I think the whole it being the favorite kid in the school scenario, I think that's dying out a bit. I think it's moving on to a couple other providers that I've listed here. I've seen this all before in the WordPress community. A hosting provider, they do it at a discount to try and get growth. Either they find out they can't make money, they start bunnying the prices up, or they sell. What do you reckon, Kurt? What do you reckon I've said?
Well, I'm going to reckon that you said probably everything that's true. But to add to that, when I left Bluehost, I went to Cloudways, and I'm one of those implementers that was attracted to it. And there's a couple of things that are really cool about Cloudways. One is, once you get over the learning curve, because there's a learning curve to using Cloudways, but once you get over that learning curve, what's nice is you can develop a product, and then if you need that performance, you can increase the level of the server at a click of a button. I mean, it just moves you to another package, and you can kind of control your costs, directly with what your needs are and your use cases are, which from an implementer's perspective is great. That's a cool way to go. The things that I found frustrating were, adding your security certificates, adding email accounts for clients if they wanted email added. All of that stuff is done through this add-on process, which can become convoluted and costly if you're not careful with what you're selecting, right? And so it's one of those, I don't want to say nickel and dime things. You know what you're getting into when you get into it. But as all things happen in hosting, when you start working with customers and other projects, there's other needs, and Cloudways doesn't come at you with all of those offers up front. You have to go and find it and add it to your account.
Yeah, I was tempted to say something even more controversial about the relationship with customer developer, but I'm not going to go down that route, because I'm going to be out getting enough poison email as it is. What have you know? So you're still with them, are you?
No. Actually, I moved on again after that. But it was because I noticed that they didn't limit how many URLs you would put in your account, but it wasn't like the performance was really great. It was like you kind of had to split your servers up. You had to get smart. You really had to figure things out and move things around. And it was more effort than I wanted to put in. So I went to a simpler provider.
Yeah, it's technical. If you've got a developer and you're happy to let one vector have a lot of control over every aspect of your business, I think it's a great solution. I don't, I noticed with the upper end of the agency market, they won't touch them. They go to other providers. I never knew why that is. I think I always got kind of mixed messages from people. Either their support's fantastic, or other people say it's pretty shitty. I always got one or the other.
The support was good.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, the support was good. And to your point, the answers were fairly technical. There were a couple of times they would say, "Oh, you need to this, this, and this," and I'd be like, "Can you dumb that down 2 levels for me?" And they were like, "Oh, you need to click this and click that," and I was like, "Oh, okay, now I know what I'm doing."
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the product was good. I got in right before they sold, and then I was with them for half a year and 9 months after they sold. Did I see a difference in performance or a difference in what I was getting? Not really, but I was trying to build an agency, and then I was moving customers through that interface, and that wasn't as smooth as it could have been. Because as I said, there's a learning curve to using them. So when you're trying to manipulate customers through that process, it just added a level of complication I didn't want to have in my agency.
I've got somebody on Twitter, I'm not going to name him, and he's got here, I can't even log into my Cloudflare account to manage the client's DNSs. Just dead in the water here. And it's been well over 24 hours now. That's unacceptable. But there we go. basically, they were the darling of the implementer crowd, folks. I don't think if you're trying to build your membership site yourself, I don't think they're a suitable solution. On to the next darling that's kind of pushed into the market, the darling of, I think their problem is that there's a new darling that's entered the WordPress market, but they were offering Rocket.net. They're aggressive on their pricing, aimed at the implementer, developer, WordPress crowd, doing a charm offensive. I haven't used them. Like I think you could use these people. I've got no experience of them. I would look at the WooCommerce hosting packages. Rocket.net, $30 starter, Pro 60, Business 100. That's the level I would look at. They're offering very aggressive multi-site. I don't mean multi-site the actual software. I mean if you're implementer with multiple sites, they're offering aggressive. But I've seen this. They're in the growth. They're looking for growth. They're looking to get a part the action of the WordPress. You know, that's capitalism for you. So they're aggressive at the present moment. So I'm tempted to say some other things about them, but I'm not. So what's your views of Rocket?
Dude, I love their t-shirts. Right? Ben is awesome. The owner of the company, Chad, I see him at WordCamps. I've got a great relationship with Chad. It's and I don't want to say this is like having the GoDaddy talk, because I'm not going to say they're like GoDaddy, but they're nothing like staff is amazing, right? The staff, that was our point with GoDaddy, was like the staff is great. I love the people from Rocket.net. In fact, they even became a recommended resource on the Lifter LMS page. But it comes down, for me, it came down to pricing versus how many WordPress installs I could have on my accounts and things like that. And I just couldn't spread the expense out over my projects. Now, if I was a single project, a single business with a membership website, I would probably look at Rocket.net.
Would you agree that I'm looking at their WooCommerce hosting?
Yeah, I would probably be on the I'd probably start out on the starter package, to be honest with you, the $30. Yeah.
But I'm looking at their solutions because they've got lower offerings, haven't they? I think they all start around 30, don't they?
Yeah, it starts at $30. You know, well, it's just $1 for the first month, but you know, then it's then it's $30 a month, and you know, not just the content that comes from Ben and Chad, and now Danielle's new to their team. Danielle just joined them, but other people, like on the X platform, they'll say Rocket.net's performance has been amazing. Its uptime is always there. The websites are really fast. They're saying it's one of the fastest serving.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit cynical about those statements, because I'm saying they're untruthful. It's just that when it comes to a WordPress, especially a learning management system and a buddy boss, it's a combination of theme, hosting, plugins, setup.
Yeah.
That, if you just concentrate on the raw speed, I'm not saying it's misleading. I just feel that it's not the reality. I'm sorry.
No, but there is a huge difference when you migrate a site from one host to another, and you can visibly experience the speed of the site. And they're getting a lot of pats on the back for that. So I think they're probably for a single site project, or
I think they're one of the better ones.
Yeah, for a smaller package, absolutely.
You heard anything about their caching? Because this is the problem. Because I love WP Engine. I think they're a very reputable company, but it's just the caching nightmare. Nightmare is probably too strong, but it's this hamster wheel, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. Do you know what they've been doing around their caching thing? Because I haven't heard anything really.
No, I will tell you that in a, off the record, adult beverage inspired conversation with Chad, anything that I wanted to do with the account, if I went to them, they would take care of. So if I wanted a special caching for my web package or my site, they would definitely make that happen for me. So I know that they're flexible, but yeah, in order to get the speed and the performance they're talking about, they have to be aggressively caching at some level.
Yeah, they've got to be in it. They seem to be very. They're doing a charm offensive in the WordPress, but they're obviously the content and marketing side to become very competitive, utilizing articles and SEO. So they're doing a charm offensive, and they remind me on the early days of Kinsta what they're trying to do, and their pricing's aggressive, but so was Kinsta. But for the first couple of years, it might be a good ride, so they're one of the better. So off this list, well, I'll leave that to the conclusion part of chasing it. On to the next one, A2 hosting. VPS. It's like they aren't owned by this conglomerate that's got the big alligator and Bluehost. I think it's US, yeah, but they built up a big business. It is like Bluehost and Alligator because it's a combination of legacy with cloud. They're a big hosting provider. They've never been that big in the WordPress community. They've never tried to get traction with the implementer, low-end developer crowd that goes to WordPress events. They've never attempted that. I thought some of the advice they had on their website was absolute shit. They were saying that you could run a learning management on a $2 to $3 account. I find that offensive. So their information they had on their website was some of the most misleading and downright wrong I've ever come across with a web developer. It made me a bit angry, Kurt. But if you do want to go with them, look at the VPS. Starts at $35.99, $49.99, $59. I haven't got much experience with what you actually get at those pricings, but I was peeved off with the information on their website, which I found highly misleading. What's your thoughts?
Well, the overpromise and underdeliver, category with hosts is not underused. That's for sure. My personal experience with A2, I really had to rack my brain on this, Jonathan. It was so long ago that I was on A2 for a project. I think it was a Joomla site, and I haven't done Joomla in a long time.
Oh my God, I'm getting hot and bothered now. God, oh Jesus, did you have to say that?
So I did. I used to have a Joomla site. So yeah, I really don't have anything modern to say for my personal experience.
I think that's a good way to put it, modern.
Yeah, but to your point, that this whole overpromise underdeliver thing, I would much rather have a host come at me and say, hey, if you have a brochure site, great, it's this much. If you want to do anything dynamic, you're going to have to be on this level for any kind of performance. Wouldn't it just be awesome if they would just tell you that right up front? But instead, they'll let you get in. They'll get you in the system. You'll get set up. You'll put customers in. The thing will start locking up, and then you're making calls to support. And now it's their job to upsell you. And I just don't like that. I don't like that method of business.
No, and so many people then just drop WordPress. They say, "Oh hell with this! This is I'm off to a SaaS solution," and that's the problem. It's great for them. Well, I don't think it's legitimate business at all. But it's there's about three in this list. That's roughly their business model, and I don't think it's done a lot of favors to WordPress or to the experience. And I don't think it's a legitimate way to do business, but that's my opinion. On to a totally different animal, Convesio. Great team, great people. I know the CEO. I really like him, like Jason, like the Kinsta people. but they're aimed at a totally different. They start at 150 for their starter. Growing business 300, performance 600. They're aimed at the higher end, the high end. But if you've got a website and you're getting membership and traction and you're building, I think you have a great experience with them. What do you reckon?
I'll go one further. I know firsthand that their support has not only addressed hosting issues, but have helped troubleshoot like plugin issues and stuff like that as well. Like
almost as good as WP-Tonics.
Almost as good as WP-Tonic. Yeah, I mean, Convesio has really stepped up for a few customers that I know directly, and it's not cheap, right? But because it's not cheap, maybe your expectations can be a little higher. I've really seen them come through for clients. When the chips are down, you're not alone. You got someone helping you, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, they're aimed at somebody that's getting growth in their membership Buddy Boss website. That's serious. But if you said, I would, yeah. But obviously, cloud is difficult. I would start off with, if you're not looking at WP-Tonic, I would look at Rocket, and then maybe you got to a certain stage. But if you're happy with Rocket, you probably stay with them. But if you're not, if things change, and you got to a certain level, look at Convesio. I think, yeah. On to another one, last one, and I think it's the problem for Rocket.net. Because I think it's starting to become the darling of a certain WordPress crowd, the implementer crowd again, because the prices are very aggressive. I try to find out who they're hosting with. Are they hosting on Amazon Web Services? Are they hosting on? I don't think they could host on. I would imagine it's Amazon Web Services at these pricing levels. Because Google Cloud would be too expensive. Because it's really great hosting Google Cloud, but it's bloody expensive. I would imagine. I think so. It's InstaWP. I interviewed the founder a few weeks ago. I didn't know what it really was initially, because it was to test websites. It was to try out new things. But now, looking at their website, that was a Trojan horse. He's aiming it to be a more established hosting provider. I don't know enough about it, but it seems to have some cool elements in it. But would you agree it's starting to be it's the favourite in school for the time being, and I think it's a big problem for Rocket. Is a lot of the crowd that were looking at Rocket are looking at InstaWP. What do you reckon?
It took me a while, I think, like you, to figure out what this actually was, and even after we talked to the guy that runs the thing, and I was still like, what does it really do?
Well, he did explain it very well, did he?
Yeah. And so I went in there and I tried it. I threw in a sample site, and I was like, okay, there's a sample site now, and then poof, it's gone, right? Because it lasts for a few days and then it's out of there. And then based on the level of plan that you have, they have expiration dates: 7 days, 15 days, 20 days, whatever. And
but
so
you can. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you can host full time on it, or can't you?
That's where my confusion came in, because I was like, if this is just a testing platform, why am I doing
Imagine selecting the wrong plan and putting your membership site on it. It goes poof off the feed.
Poof. So
was as bad as GoDaddy.
Well, no, but you have to select it. You have to reserve it. So they have this new term called a reserved site, and so I guess.
Oh, this definitely ain't for the normal membership. Just wants to build a good membership website and make some decent money. This definitely, but you can see why the implementer crowd loves all this crap, don't they? You can just see it, can't you?
Well, it's fun to test stuff, right? But it's So if I had the basic plan, let's just say that, I wanted the basic plan, and I don't know, let's say I'm on $150 a year, right? So I'm going to have so many sites. What is it? 5 active sites that I can have, and I can reserve those sites. But if I don't reserve those sites, they'll expire in 7 days. So I there's a couple of cool things there. Like, I love the idea that, because I'm all about action leadership, right? All about taking action. But, the only way you gain influence with people is by the actions you deliver. So, hey, you got 7 days, man, make this thing happen. Cool. Right. And then you can reserve the site. And then that tells me that I've got hosting for a year for, what was that, $120 or something like that?
Yeah, the prices are. But who? Have you been on the website? Have you tried to find out who the backbone provider is?
I don't know who the backbone provider is. I don't know where they host these things at. I haven't got a clue. And I don't know what the overall performance is.
That's alarming for me, because if you go with Cloudways, at least they list who the backbone provider is, don't they?
Yeah. It's I told you I built a sample site. I jumped on there and did the test it for 7 days thing and did it. And man, it works well. I gotta say, it works well. But I have no idea what the hosting experience would be like, on a reserved site for a year. Like, I don't know what that would look like.
No, it's a bit confusing, but there we go. Life's confusing, isn't it? Am I confusing, Kurt?
Sometimes. How long was InstaWP on the market? How new is it?
I think he's been at it for a couple of years. But yeah, there's certain influencers pushing this. I don't know enough. I like the guy. Good luck to him. But I'm a bit old and cynical, so don't listen to me, viewers. I think for the people that listen to this podcast, I don't think it's a suitable product. If you've got a developer in tow and you're giving all the responsibility to the developer, which I don't think is a great idea. I think there's a balance between how you set up your business, but it's a whole other discussion which I don't want to go in, because we're up to 1 hour. But so we've got one more and then we can finish this show, because you've got things to do, haven't you, Kurt? So on to the last one, Pressable. Am I pronouncing it correct?
Pressable.
And this should be superb. It's owned by the parent company of WordPress, because it's owned by Automatic. And its prices start at 45, Advanced 60, Pro 90. Not the cheapest, especially the starter at 45, but you get what you pay for most of the time, not always. I would never recommend them because it's owned by Automatic. So I don't mean that. They're lovely people. They, fantastic crew. It's just that I'm not going to go any further. But I obviously, because of the pricing, I think very reputable. I've never used them. I've never come across a client that's ever used them. Actually, I don't know. What's your views about this?
This is another one, Jonathan, where I hesitate. I don't want to slam somebody just because they're owned by Automatic. I mean, to me, that's
I was being a bit unfair there, weren't I?
But I don't have anyone in any of my circles that has used Pressable that has given me any feedback about them at all. Like, I've never heard anything good or bad about them. And that to me is that's almost alarming, right? It's like, at least if someone's bad, I hear about it, but I've heard nothing, zero, not a zilch from Pressable, but maybe they'll be part of that, lifetime URL thing for $35,000.
Yeah, that. Oh, Jesus. Jesus.
I'm just trying to push those buttons.
Jesus Christ. So conclusion, out of all the ones we've talked about here, if you were if you're the owner of a website and you're not an implementer, you're kind of you've got a bit of WordPress knowledge, but you do not want to become an implementer. You just want to build a successful membership community-based website. and provide value to your students, to your members, and you were looking to build your website initially DIY, which is totally possible now with the right stack of plugins, with some WordPress ability. So we're not in implementer mode here. We're talking about owner mode.
Yeah.
Of can you choose one or two to three of the list? I know what my choices were. What would be your? And let's start from your third, your second, your first.
Oh boy. My third is probably going to be WP Engine. And then my second is probably going to be Kinsta. And my first is going to be Rocket.net.
Yeah. Here's a difficult one. I would start with Bluehost, number 3, because of the value providers.
Yeah.
I think for, you're not going to get the best experience, but unlike the crocodile, the big daddy, it's not going to be disastrous, right? It's not great praise, but it's just the truth, folks. Next one, Kinsta. Yeah, but their pricing, and the last would be, I would say, Rocket. Yeah, I would go with Rocket.
So I'm going to jump in, Jonathan. I'm going to say it so you don't have to on your own podcast. These are great options. These are wonderful options. But it depends on the use case that the customer is looking for hosting with. If they already have the site and it's already built and they've already, I get that. I do, right? Because you're going to migrate and you're going to take advantage of a cool platform. But with WP-Tonic, you do the hosting and include, the licensing and the software that's required to build these projects. And so that is, I know that you mention it and stuff like that, but I got to say it because you might not say it the way I say it. It's, if you don't look at the pricing and what's included with WP-Tonic and you're in this market, you're crazy not to look at it, because you can get Lifter LMS or LearnDash. You can get, SureMember, SureCart, WooCommerce. You go through the list, Fluent CRM. All of these things can cost thousands of dollars per year on top of the hosting, and it's included with WP-Tonic.
Yeah, we are boutique hosting aimed at the education membership sector. All these players, they're looking to become a bigger player. They offer a broader solution, but they're also aimed at different types, aren't they? The Bluehost isn't aimed at the same type of customer as Cloudways.
No,
I just don't think they're aimed at a totally different type of customer, aren't they?
I almost picture Bluehost as being like, the Squarespace of WordPress. They're like, hey, you want to build a website? Come to Bluehost and we'll get you started.
Yeah, they're in that, but compared to, I just thought what A2 was saying on their website was so misleading and horrendous. HostGator, so I just think they're a joke as a hosting provider. I think GoDaddy, I think the big daddy is more serious than the alligator. It's just my horrendous support and their total. But the people are nice when you meet them in person. I just think the WordPress people they hire to go to WordCamps are very different people that are running their hosting centers.
Could be.
The tricky one was WP Engine, because it's such a tricky thing for me to talk about WP Engine, because Jason, the team, they're some of the most professional people in the WordPress hosting space, and I know why a lot of developers and people, they won't even consider WP Engine if they've got a client, because they are committed to WP Engine. And I understand it, but I'm not just going to mislead. And I understand, the little sector that WP-Tonic is in it's just a tiny little sector for
Yeah.
WP Engine. It's
Yeah.
just a tiny little sub river, estuary. And it's just painful to try, get all this caching sorted, and it goes away and it just comes back. It's like the caching problems just come back, and they're extremely frustrating, and frustrating for clients, and frustrating if you're a developer.
Yeah.
You really want to get a gun and shoot yourself. And so that's tricky for me. I've not hosted anything with Rocket. I'm just going by, hopefully, and you seem to what you've heard. So that was a tricky one. So it's Bluehost, Kinsta, or Rocket of what we listed.
Yeah.
Any ending thoughts? Anything that we haven't discussed that you want to mention to listeners?
I threw my final thoughts in when I gave the push for WP-Tonic. Great service you offer, Jonathan. It's awesome.
Yeah, I've tried to be. Obviously, in some ways I'm competing, but I'm not. In some ways, I'm just trying to get my little bit of the market, my little special. So I'm in no way any threat to any of these people, because they're all much bigger than WP Engine, and I've got no aspirations to become but nor am I not a professional. We offer great service, don't we?
Yep.
And the WP-Tonic team.
Yeah.
I think it's been a fair podcast, hasn't it?
Yeah. And there's a ton that weren't on the list, and don't be offended if you didn't make the list.
It would have gone on forever.
Could have been forever. Yeah.
Could have been forever. There's loads of them. It's a very fractured. I always thought it was just dominated by a few players, but actually, when you look at the statistics, it's still an extremely fractured marketplace. But there is a lot of confusion. I think we've done a good job of clearing it. We're given some of all the options and the price levels, and if you want any kind of decent experience, these are the kind of options that you should be looking at. So, Kurt, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and what you're up to?
Just LinkedIn. That's all I'm going to give today. LinkedIn. Connect with me there, and we'll have a conversation.
All right. And if you want to find out more information, join the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. We're putting a ton of content that really helps you build a membership website. And if you want another option, join the WP-Tonic, the Membership Machine Facebook group, where we have great discussions with WordPress professionals, with those trying to build a membership website. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.